Chapter 2. Gertrude's was an old diner on Main Street, 6 blocks west of the courthouse and 3 blocks south of the police station. It claimed to serve pecan waffles that were famous around the world, but Theo had often doubted this. Did people in Japan and Greece really know about Gertrude and her waffles? He wasn't so sure. He had friends at school who'd never heard of Gertrude's right there in Strattonburg. A few miles west of town, on the main highway, there was an ancient log cabin with a gas pump out front and a large sign advertising Dudley's world-famous mint fudge. When Theo was younger, he naturally had assumed that everybody in town not only craved the mint fudge, but it talked about nonstop. How else could it achieve the status of being world-famous? Then one day, in the class discussion, took an odd turn and found its way to the topic of imports and exports. Theo made the observation that Mr. Dudley and his mint fudge were so heavy into exports because they were so famous. It was said so right on the billboard. To his astonishment, only one other classmate had ever heard of this fudge. Slowly, Theo realized that it probably was not as well known as Mr. Dudley claimed it to be. Slowly, he began to grasp the concept of false advertising. Since then, he had been suspicious of such big claims of notoriety. But on this morning, he couldn't dwell on waffles and fudge, famous or not. He was far too occupied with thoughts of April and the slimy figure of Jack Leeper. The Boones were seated at a small table in a crowded diner. The air was thick with bacon grease and strong coffee, and the topic, as Theo realized not long after he had sat down, was the abduction of April Fenimore. To their right, 4 uniformed policemen talked loudly about the possibility that Leeper was close by. To their left, a table of gray-haired men spoke with great authority on several subjects, but seemed particularly interested in the kidnapping, as it was sometimes referred to. The menu promoted the myth of that Gertrude's was indeed the home of world-famous pecan waffles. In silent protest against false advertising, Theo ordered scrambled eggs and sausage. His father ordered waffles. His mother ordered dry wheat toast. As soon as the waitress walked away, Mrs. Boone looked Theo squarely in the eyes and said, "Okay, let's have it. There's something else to the story." Theo was constantly amazed at how easily his mother could do this. He could tell only half of a story, and she immediately looked for the other half. He could offer her a little fib, nothing serious, maybe something just for fun, and she instinctively pounced on it and ripped it to shreds. He could duck a direct question, and she would fire it back with 3 more. Theo suspected she had acquired the skill after years as a divorce lawyer. She often said that she never expected her clients to tell her the truth. "I agree," said Mr. Boone. Theo couldn't tell if he really agreed or whether he was just tag-teaming with his wife, which he often did. Mr. Boone was a real estate lawyer who never went to court, and while he missed the little, he was usually a step or 2 behind Miss Boone when it came time to grill Theo about something. "April told me not to tell anyone," Theo said. To which his mother responded quickly, "And April is in big trouble right now, Theo. If you know something, let's have it, and now." Her eyes narrowed, her eyebrows arched. Theo knew where this was headed, and, truthfully, he knew it was better to level with his parents. "Miss Fenimore wasn't at home when I talked to April last night," Theo said, his head low, his eyes darting left and right. "And she wasn't home the night before. She's taking pills and acting crazy. April's been living by herself." "Where's her father?" Mr. Boone asked. "He's off with his band. Hasn't been home in a week." "Doesn't he have a job?" Miss Boone asked. "He buys and sells antique furniture. April says he'll make a few bucks and disappear for a week or 2 with his band." "That poor girl," Miss Boone said. "Are you going to tell the police?" Theo asked. Both parents took long sips of their coffee cups. They exchanged curious looks as they pondered this. They eventually agreed that they would discuss it later at the office while Theo was at school. Miss Fenimore was obviously lying to the police, but the Boones were reluctant to get in the middle of that. They doubted if she knew anything about the abduction. She seemed distressed enough. She probably felt guilty for being away when her daughter was taken. The food arrived and the waitress refilled the coffee cups. Theo was drinking milk. The situation was very complicated, and Theo was relieved to have his parents involved and doing their share of the worrying. Anything else, Theo? His father asked. Not that I can think of. His mother said, when you talked to her about last night, was she frightened? Yes. She was really scared and also worried about her mother. Why didn't you tell us? His father asked. Because she made me promise not to tell. April has to deal with a lot, and she's very private. She's also embarrassed by her family and tries to protect them. She was hoping her mother would show up at any minute. I guess someone else did. Theo suddenly lost his appetite. He should have done more. He should have tried to protect April by telling his parents or perhaps a teacher at school. Someone would have listened to him. He could have done something, but April swore him to silence, and she kept assuring him she was safe. The house was locked, plenty of lights were on, and so forth. During the drive home, Theo said from the rear seat, I'm not sure I can go to school today. I was waiting for that, his father replied. What's your reason this time? His mother said. Well, to start with, I didn't get enough sleep last night. We've been up since, 4:30? So you want to go home and go to sleep? His father replied. I didn't say that, but I doubt if I can stay awake at school. I bet you can. Your mother and I are going to work, and we have no choice but to stay awake. Theo almost blurted something about his father's daily siesta, a brief power nap at the desk with the door locked, usually around 3 p.m. Everyone who worked at the law firm of Boone & Boone knew that Woods was upstairs, shoes off, feet at the desk, phone on Do Not Disturb, snoring away for 30 minutes every afternoon. You can tough it out, his father added. Theo's problem at this moment was his habit of trying to avoid school. Headaches, coughs, food poisoning, pulled muscles, stomach gas. Theo had tried them all and would try them again. He didn't hate school. In fact, he usually enjoyed it once he got there. He made good grades and enjoyed his friends. Theo, though, wanted to be at the courthouse, watching the trials and hearings, listening to the lawyers and judges, chatting with policemen and the clerks, even the janitors. Theo knew them all. There's another reason I can't go to school, he said, though he knew it was a battle he would not win. Let's hear it, his mother said. Okay, there's a manhunt underway and I need to go help. How often do we have a manhunt in Strattonburg? This is a big deal, especially since my close friend they're looking for. I need to help search for April. She would expect me to. Plus, there's no way I can concentrate at school. A total waste of time. I think of nothing but April. Nice try, his father said. Not bad, his mother added. Look, I'm curious. I need to be on the streets. I'm confused, his father said, though he really wasn't. He often claimed to be confused when discussing things with Theo. You're too tired to go to school, yet you have enough energy to lead a manhunt. Whatever. There's no way I can go to school. An hour later, Theo parked his bike outside the middle school and reluctantly went inside as the 8:15 bell was ringing. In the main lobby, he was immediately met by 3 crying 8th grade girls who wanted to know if he knew anything about April. He said he knew nothing more than what he was being reported on the morning news. Evidently, everyone in town had watched the morning news. Reports showed a school photo of April and a mugshot of Jack Leeper. There was a strong suggestion that kidnapping had taken place. Theo didn't understand this. A kidnapping, and he checked the dictionary, usually involved the demands for ransom. Cash to be paid for the release of a person seized. If Fenimores couldn't pay their monthly bills, how were they supposed to find serious cash to free April? And there was no word yet from the kidnapper. Usually, as Theo remembered from television, the family gets word pretty soon that the bad guys have the child and would like $1 million or so for a safe return. Another report from the morning news showed Miss Fenimore crying in front of their home. The police were tight-lipped, saying only that they were pursuing all leads. A neighbor said his dog started barking around midnight. Always a bad sign. As frantic as the reporters seemed to be that morning, the truth was that they were finding very little to add to the story of a missing girl. Theo's homeroom teacher was Mr. Mount, who also taught government. After Mr. Mount got the boys settled, he called a roll. All 16 were present. The conversation quickly got around to the disappearance of April, and Mr. Mount asked Theo if he'd heard anything. Nothing, Theo said, and his classmates seemed disappointed. Theo was one of the few boys who talked to April. Most of the 8th graders, boys and girls, liked April, but found her difficult to hang out with. She was quiet, dressed more like a boy than a girl, had no interest in the latest fashions or the weekly teen gossip magazines, and, as everyone knew, came from a weird family. The bell rang for first period, and Theo, already exhausted, dragged himself off to Spanish. That's the end of chapter 2.